This will probably be one of those videos where at the end of the year and when it is draft time and the college basketball season, all that's done, I'll probably get to look back at it and be called a retard. Okay, I'm fully aware of that. But in this video, I'm going to be comparing one of the greatest American white boy prospects since Larry motherfucking Bird, okay? Like, he's that level of prospect. He's been getting his shit absolutely bounced upon very recently, okay? Especially in the media. He played for Team USA's like select team or training team, and people were just bouncing on it. Now, rightfully so, Cooper Flagg is an amazing talent and is an amazing player. We're going to be getting into all that in this video, and I'm going to be comparing him to the other headliner of this class, and Amari Ace Bailey, another great prospect, freak athlete, and I'm going to be really comparing them, and after I'm done comparing them, I'm going to actually say who I think is going to end up being a better NBA player, and that is where the me looking really stupid part will most likely come into play in the future, okay? So to really determine this, I'm going to be looking over a few different things, being the frame of them, meaning their size overall, just in general, their play style in general, and then a few other things like where I think their ceiling is probably going to be, and then the biggest questions in their games going forward. And after I compare all of those things and give my opinions on those things, I'm going to go into why I think who is the better overall player and will be the better NBA player going forward. So if that does sound interesting to you, please watch the video all the way through. And without further rambling on too much, let's get right into this video. And the first thing we're going to be getting to is going to be just their frame and their overall size comparisons to each other. Now, obviously, yes, this is a limited thing, and you can't find out too much from just looking at the frame of a player, but there is an ideal NBA frame for sure that players want to have and that NBA teams are looking for. So we're going to be getting to both of them right now. And the first one we're going to be getting to is going to be Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is 6'9", 200 pounds and 18 years old, and he's playing for the University of Rutgers this year. That doesn't really matter, but yeah, that's basically his size, and it is basically ideal size. You want a guy who can basically switch on every position besides the center, which he can do with that size. He's great. He's a great athlete. Just things like that. Like, he's going to be able to switch on everybody. He has great versatility due to his frame, and there's really no flaws in it. And then you have Cooper Flagg, who is basically the exact same thing, as he is 6'8", 200 pounds, and 18 years old as well, playing for Duke University. So Cooper Flagg is an inch shorter, and that is where the entire differences between these two players end when it comes to their size. Both of them have great size. Both of them are going to be very versatile players, and both of them would, I'd say, have ideal NBA fit. So if I was going to compare them, I mean, maybe you give it to Bailey just because he's an inch taller, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say they're basically identical, and they both have ideal NBA size, which makes it still a tie as we get past the first frame, pun intended, of the testing of comparing these players. And now we're going to be moving on to their play styles. So really, the play style is going to be the first thing where we actually see differences between these two players. Once again, we're going to be starting with Ace Bailey. Now, Ace Bailey is an extremely fast-paced and explosive athlete. Like, when you watch his film, the first thing you're going to see is this motherfucker can jump to the moon, okay? Like, he is insanely athletic, like one of the most athletic prospects I have seen in a very, very long time. And on top of that, he has extremely high two-way potential due to his length, due to his athleticism, and due to the frame we mentioned earlier. He's going to have the potential to be insane on both ends of the ball. But where he really is different than most freak athlete prospects coming in is this dude has legit shown potential to have a good jumper, can make his own shot, can do things that usually you don't see these super uber athletic prospects be able to do. They're usually not very polished on the offensive end because they can dunk and get to the lane so easily. They don't have to work on the rest of their game, and they come in kind of raw into the college game. But that is not really the case for Ace Bailey. He's pretty polished. He can shoot pretty well. He's pretty consistent. And if he can just have a decent three-point shot in college and be consistent at it and be able to make it on a consistent level, he is going to be an absolute problem. And like I said, this dude's athleticism is otherworldly, okay? Like, it is insane once you actually get to watch him for an extended period of time when studying his film. And now moving on to Cooper Flagg. Now, Cooper Flagg, although he does have a slight differences, he also kind of has similarities to him as well. But he is different in the fact that he's a lot more methodical on the offensive end, especially. So he really has like a purpose for every movement he makes. I would compare it to Luka more. Now, although he doesn't play exactly like Luka, the way he moves and the way every movement he makes is an effective move. And he doesn't really rely on like this explosiveness that he doesn't have, or that he kind of lacks. So he really is more methodical, and that could be a good thing. It's not a bad thing in any way. It's just a very different way of playing on the offensive end than someone like Ace Bailey's probably going to do. He's going to be more fade away, back to the basket, fading away, being able to create his jump shot, catch and shoot type guy. But just like Ace Bailey, that is kind of where the differences end, as he does have elite two-way potential as well due to his size. He's very smart defensively as well, so his defense and strength should really go hand in hand, and he is much stronger than Ace Bailey coming in as well. He's already a great shooter, and due to his lack of athleticism, or not lack of athleticism, he's a very good athlete, don't get me wrong, but just not on Ace Bailey's level. But due to him not being that ungodly level of athlete like Ace Bailey, he's a lot more polished on the jump shooting end and self-creation end on the jump shots. And overall, I think Flagg is probably going to be a better half-court offensive guy coming in, especially right away. So although they do have very different play styles, I think they're both going to be very effective in their own ways. And if I had to give an edge, I would probably give it to Cooper Flagg coming in, because I think Flagg is going to just be a better NBA type player than Ace Bailey right away. But I do think Ace Bailey is going to be able to get there in time when he is developing. But I do think Flagg gets the advantage here, just because I think his play style is going to be more suited to an NBA game and NBA systems right away than someone like Ace Bailey is going to be. So that now officially makes a score 2-1 in favor of Cooper Flagg, and obviously 1-1 because they both tied in frame. But now we're going to be moving on to what I think their NBA ceiling could potentially be going forward. And this time we're going to be starting off with Cooper Flagg. Now Cooper Flagg, I mean, without needing to say, his ceiling is absurd. He has superstar potential, insane. The hype, I think, is warranted. Like, he is a great prospect, definitely not one like a normal prospect you see in every draft class, 100%. And then I would say player comparisons for him would be guys like Franz Wagner, Kyle Anderson. Now I'm not saying that's going to be as good as he can possibly get, but I would say he plays a lot like those two guys, and they're probably going to combine styles of their game and maybe even make them a better version of both those players combined, and you could really have an extremely good player, because Franz Wagner, I mean, is an all-star, and I think he's probably going to be better than him, so I would say that's definitely very nice to have. And obviously he also brings other unique aspects, like he's not just confined to what Wagner and Kyle Anderson bring, but that is kind of like, I think, two players that if you combine them, you would at least get somewhat of a version of a Cooper Flagg. And I think Cooper Flagg has legit superstar potential, maybe even MVP potential one day at its highest. And overall, I think his ceiling is absolutely through the roof and absurdly high. And now moving on to Ace Bailey. Bailey's ceiling, in my opinion, is also on basically the same like trajectory, potential MVP, superstar, like unbelievable ceiling. His player comparisons, I'd say, would be like a combination of Andrew Wiggins, RJ Barrett, and Jaden McDaniels, because he has a chance to be an insane defender with insane athleticism and insane scoring ability. I think his scoring ability is higher than Wiggins and RJ Barrett's, but I think RJ Barrett's would probably be his best shooting potential, and then Wiggins just kind of plays like him and kind of has similar builds to him. And I think Jay McDaniels gives him that defensive side that he could potentially live up to as well. And I think due to the unbelievable athleticism Ace Bailey has, although I think his floor is probably lower than a guy like Cooper Flagg, I do think his ceiling is a little bit higher, because if he fully hits, his athleticism is going to set him apart. Like, if he can become a beast of a scorer on the offensive end, and he can be a beast of a defender on the other end, and he's just super athletic to fall back on top of that, I just can't see his ceiling be anything other than a potential MVP one day. Like, that dude's potential is just through the roof. It is insane if he hits. So I would say ceiling wise, I would have to give the edge to Ace Bailey by a little bit. Now, not by too much, because I think Cooper Flagg's potential is unbelievably high too. I just think Bailey is also extremely high. So when it now comes down to it, I have them placed at 2-2, and it is now coming down to what I think their biggest questions are between both these players coming in, or what I think they will be going into the draft. Now, we're going to be starting with Ace Bailey. Now, Ace Bailey, I think his biggest question undoubtedly is going to be the consistency of his jump shot. I'm not worried if he's going to be able to get it off. I'm worried if he's going to be able to do it consistency for the reasons I laid out earlier, that I think these uber athletic guys usually don't have the most polished jump shot game, and it usually kind of becomes a hindrance to them. Look at a guy like Isaac Okoro. In college, he was an unbelievable athlete and a great defender, but he didn't have that jump shooting ability, and he's just never gotten it, and it's very much hindered his potential. And I think Ace Bailey, although I think is a much better prospect than Isaac Okoro, as just using that as an example, I think he runs the risk of maybe not having the most consistent jump shot. And then on top of that, maybe his ball handle as well. I think his ball handle could be a little different. His mentality, although I think he is a dog, I want to see it in college before I give him that dog like thing. So maybe his mentality could be a little thing. And then overall, just his efficiency in general. Because if he doesn't have the right mentality, his defense isn't going to be there. And if he's an inefficient jump shooter at that, then he's going to be just a freak athlete. And the NBA has a ton of freak athletes that aren't that skilled overall. So he cannot become that, and he runs the risk of that. Now, I don't think that's what he's going to end up being, but that is what his absolute floor would be. It's just this uber athletic guy who doesn't have the mentality, he doesn't have the efficiency, and will probably be out of the NBA in 6 years. That is his absolute worst case scenario that I don't think is going to happen. But I think those are by far the biggest questions of Ace Bailey. And then the biggest questions of Cooper Flagg, I would really just say the only thing I found was his next level defense and maybe his athleticism. I think his athleticism's fine. It's a very small, like I have an asterisk even next to it if I was even going to say it. The only difference would be his defense, but I think his IQ is high enough to be a good defender. Like guys like Jokic aren't bad defenders despite not being good athletes at all. So I do think that someone like him is very capable of being a good defender. His size is going to help with that. His strength is going to help with that. And I think that is really the only big question with Cooper Flagg. And with that being said, I'm going to have to give that edge to Cooper Flagg as well, as I think he has much less questions coming in than Ace Bailey. So although it is 3-2 to Ace Bailey, this is where the retard part is going to come into me. Despite the test saying Cooper Flagg's a better player, I'm still going to give the edge to Ace Bailey. If I was a GM right now and I couldn't watch any college tape in the future of what they're going to do, I would go with Ace Bailey because I think his potential is so much higher. I think his ceiling's a little bit higher. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a generational prospect. Same with Cooper Flagg. I think Cooper Flagg is probably going to be a generational prospect. But to me, something is just special about Ace Bailey. I think he's going to be an absolute dog. And I think he is going to be a little bit better than Cooper Flagg. Not by a lot, but I think a little bit better. And like I said, this very much could come back to bite me in the ass. I should have listened to these tests if I'm wrong, but I wanted to see if I'm wrong. And maybe even once the college season is over, I will change my opinion on this. It's very close. I have them very close. I just have Ace Bailey a little bit over the edge of them. But unfortunately, guys, that's me for this video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think Ace Bailey is better? Do you think Cooper Flagg's better? Why do you think they're better? Why do you think I'm wrong? I want to hear our thoughts in the comment section below. Any like point, hit the like button, subscribe button, me an absolute word to me, and hope you have a blessed day because I had a blessed day. So you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.